you can't prejudice a police investigation, which is the phrase that the Metropolitan Police has issued. I'll say one thing quickly, because it seems quite pertinent today, and it's quite personal, but I sometimes use my personal experiences as a lens through which to look at a story and then invite you to do the same. I think, like many people in this country, I grew up having probably a slightly excessive level of trust in both the police and the medical establishment. I've seen an awful lot of people. I've seen the horrors that can occur when trust in the medical establishment gets corrupted and undermined. But it should never be absolute and blind. There's a reason why the phrase second opinion is a figure of speech, isn't there? There's a reason why, can I see it? Can I get a second opinion? The first thing you hear from the first doctor is not necessarily going to be completely true. I think that's called white coat syndrome, the idea that they're all infallible. And that's a dangerous path to go down. Similarly, the police, you're raised to trust the police, right? You're raised to go to a policeman if you get lost. In me, it was Glossop Market in 1975. Find a police officer, tell him you've lost your mummy. And as you grow older, it begins to, especially if you're a bit naughty, it probably begins to change a bit, that relationship. But there is still a foundation stone of civilized society involves having trust in the institutions, having trust in the police. Mine got shaken to the core by Operation Midland, actually. We did a lot on this programme to cover the allegations described as credible and true that turned out to be nothing of the sort, but they were described, Carl Beach allegations about various VIPs and paedophilia. They were described by a senior investigating officer as credible and true. So naively, perhaps, most of the British media didn't stop to question whether or not they could be an absolute pile of crud, an absolute pile of rubbish. Credible and true are such powerful words. So you realise, or I realise, as a consequence of that investigation and that report, the Daily Mail at one point claimed that it was a victory for the Daily Mail and the Truth when Beach's allegations were described as credible and true. I realise that police officers are just fallible human beings like the rest of us, so they can do stupid things. They can make terrible mistakes. I hope they've made a terrible mistake today, because the alternative to me is almost unbearable. The alternative is that they have been politicised. Someone who is a lot better versed than I am in covering the relationship between government and police tells me that the governments are always trying to put pressure upon the Metropolitan Police. They're always trying to politicise stories. They're always trying to get the Met to do what's best for the government. And that commissioners of the Metropolitan Police historically turn around and say, sod off. They historically turn around and say no. I hesitate to say this because I am quietly patriotic and very proud of the institutions that hold this country together. I can't come up with much of an explanation for what's happening today that doesn't involve Cressida Dick being a commissioner of the Metropolitan Police who, when government come calling, asking for the Metropolitan Police to act in their own interest, in the interest of the government, doesn't say no, doesn't say clear off. Awful lot of mystery surrounding the question of why she retains her job after countless scandals and from Sarah Everard, God rest her soul, right back to Daniel Morgan, and of course John Charles de Menezes, which she, I think, was in operational control of when that innocent man was shot dead on the London Underground. So many cases that Cressida Dick has personal involvement in, which are in the annals of the greatest scandals ever undertaken by the Metropolitan Police Service. So that's what one question, and I hate this because I don't do conspiracies. I just don't. I don't buy them for a whole heap of reasons. And this isn't really a conspiracy. This is a thesis. This is a hypothesis, a theory that you're welcome to disprove. And there'll be lots of people listening to this program who have much more experience of the law than I do, either as lawyers or as officers of law and order. A lot of people, awful lot of people telling me that white coat syndrome, or is it just the same person sending loads of tweets? No, sorry, I got white coat syndrome wrong. It's not what I thought it was. It's when your blood pressure is higher when a doctor takes it because you're nervous in the doctor's surgery than it is when you do it yourself at home. There you go. I'm glad we cleared that up. That's the first mistake of the day. Chalked up and ticked off. 12 minutes after 10 is the time. And that is, for me, at the moment, the most likely explanation is that this investigation has been politicised. They tried to confine it to Sue Gray, which gives them a modicum of hope that they'll be able to control it. Sue Gray ultimately, of course, reports to the Prime Minister, so they are in a way marking their own homework. And they can't do that now because the Metropolitan Police have been shown evidence by Sue Gray that prompted them to think that a police investigation was necessary. And now the Metropolitan Police have called for Sue Gray's report to not contain details of the alleged offences that the Metropolitan Police are investigating. What I want you to do, ideally, because I'd love to end this conversation this morning feeling a little bit more optimistic about the state of the Met. I really would, because I think it is part of the glue that holds our society together. An imperfect, a flawed, on occasions institutionally racist and institutionally corrupt organisation, according to hugely influential and important reports into its operations. Let's be under no illusions about that. Despite my personal naivety and possibly optimism about what the future may hold, institutionally racist, according to Macpherson, institutionally corrupt, according to the Daniel Morgan inquiry. But equally, that's all we've got, guys. It's all we've got. All we've got is the rule of law and the Metropolitan Police. All that keeps us different from Russia or North Korea or whatever else, Bolsonaro's Brazil, all we have is the rule of law and the police. The judiciary, under attack, of course, inevitably from the Daily Mail, enemies of the people. These people are not your friends if they attack the judges. But that's all we've got. We've got the judiciary, we've got the police, and we've got the rule of law. And incredibly, for all their myriad flaws and failings and, for my money, moral transgressions, the Conservative Party, historically, is supposed to be the most doughty guardian of that triumvirate of security, the judiciary, the police, the rule of law. Conservatives, when I was growing up, were supposed to cherish them more than almost anybody else did. Lefties were the ones that were pushing at the boundaries of the rule of law. Lefties were the one having the protests and needing that the Tories would bring in legislation. But the rule of law, the police and the judiciary, that's pretty much all we've got. Some might say some journalists as well. But when you want to speak truth to power, when you want to hold the most powerful people to account, the judiciary, the police, the rule of law are really the first and last lines of defence for ordinary people. And I can't see right now an explanation of what the Met have done today that doesn't speak to the politicisation of the entire process. An attempt by government to get the Metropolitan Police to do what is best for Boris Johnson. Not what is best for the country, not what is best for the truth, not what is best for justice, but what is best for Boris Johnson.